Ah, shit. It's a beautiful day outside. Blue skies, the birds are singing, and the sun shines down on a small town up in Utah. The townsfolk chitter about their lives and go about their day. The town is bustling with people knowing almost everyone there, saying hi to everyone that they know and saying hello to everybody that passes by. Smiles from ear to ear and as far as the eye can see. But among those people walks a man with 2 bags of rice under his arm like they weigh nothing, as all the locals recognize him. Hi, Carl.
Morning, Mr. O'Connors.
Wonderful day out today, ain't it, Carl?
The people greet him as Carl O'Connors waves back at everyone with a massive smile on his face. Smiling and waving at everyone that passes by him, he returns to his family farm not too far from the town. He doesn't ride a tractor and he doesn't fly to town unlike his friend in the city. Carl likes to take his time on the walk from the town all the way home. Arriving at the farm, the birds chirp and the animals are as loud as ever. Passing them, he approaches his cozy little farmhouse by the barn as 2 kids run out to meet him. Without dropping the bags of rice, he picks both of these kids up with one arm, spinning them around playfully. From the doorway, a tall woman with white hair and a scar on her lips watches as her grandkids play with their grandpa.
Now that's enough, kids. Old Grandpa Carl needs to put those big bags of rice down before he gets tired.
Oh, nothing's too heavy for old Grandpa Carl, especially not these 2 munchkins.
Letting them both down with the rice still under his arms, he explains how Dolores ran out of rice, so he had to fly to the neighboring farm to get some for himself. He says they should really consider making rice of their own instead of buying from town every time.
Oh, please, Carl. You love walking into town no matter what we do around here. You always find an excuse to head out with the grandkids whenever you can.
No, you got me. What would I do without you, Gertrude?
Carl smiles as he gives his wife a little kiss on the forehead. Setting the rice down by the countertop, he hears a beeping noise coming from the dining table. Approaching it, a red beeping light is on his pager, signaling to Carl that the Guardians and Omni-Man need their help. So, he suits up, kisses his wife and grandkids as he flies to wherever he's needed. One of his grandkids yell up at him, asking if he can come with. He's pretty strong like him and Uncle Nolan. Carl looks back down and tells the boy,
You may be strong, Squirt, but you're not.
The city is revealed to be under attack by a massive kaiju. The immortal War Woman and Omni-Man are doing their best to fend off the attack while the rest of the Guardians focus on evac. They're not alone though. The team has arrived just in time to give the Guardians a helping hand. Eve makes constructs to protect the people from the falling debris. Robot and his drones help Darkwing evacuate people on shuttles. And Duplicate and Rexplode help Aquarius and Martian Man with the people stuck under rubble. Red Rush gets the most people out of harm's way along with the help of the team. As now, the immortal War Woman and Omni-Man can focus on taking this beast down. The perimeter's clear and the civilians have been evacuated. Immortal and War Women drop down to this thing's feet as they grab a hold of War Woman's lasso. They wrap its legs as tight as they can, and Omni-Man gives this thing the hardest punch it has ever received. It rocks back and forth as it stumbles. Believing that punch would be the finishing blow, War Woman's lasso starts to rip. It snaps under the pressure of this kaiju's pulling force as the Immortal and War Woman are knocked back a couple blocks as it's up to Omni-Man to stop this massive creature. Going in for the killing blow, he's then grabbed by this thing's face tentacles. Tightening its grip around Omni-Man, he struggles to get loose of this thing, which is new for him as he's never found a creature on this planet that could be this strong to threaten his kind. As the monster's mouth opens, its tentacles is then sliced off clean, falling to the pavement below, setting Omni-Man free. Flying back up to this thing, writhing in agony, he meets Carl up there, saying he had that, and Carl just laughs.
Sure you did, Nolan.
As they look at each other, and back to this thing getting back up.
We should shut off the green light. Kill this fucking thing and get it over with.
Cecil's voice can be heard over the intercoms in both of their earpieces as the Immortal and War Woman finally make it back to the scene.
Shall we?
Carl offers the beast to Omni-Man as they both chuckle.
Just like old times, Carl.
Nolan rebuts as they both zoom off, breaking the sound barrier with their speed and crashing through this thing's face. Piercing its skull, they exit back out of its head, covered in its blood. Its body falls to the streets, but before it does, Carl swoops down and carries this thing's body up into the sky. Nolan said that he looks like he could use some help, as Carl rebuts that don't get him started. He can handle it himself. He smiles down at Nolan as he looks down towards the rest of the Guardians and the team. The Immortal waves up towards Carl as he yells,
Outstanding work catching that kaiju, Liberator. You couldn't have come at a better time.
He laughs as he waves at the rest of the Guardians and carries the kaiju with his GDA-issued mechanical arm. He looks back to Nolan as they both nod at each other, and Omni-Man hovers down to the Guardians. And Carl takes this thing away from the city. As he arrives in the middle of the sea, he drops the body down into the waters, letting the earth consume what it had created. He looks down to the creature, sinking to the bottom of the ocean. As he looks up at the sun, enjoying the blue skies, the birds chirping, and the sunlight on his face. He flies up into the skies and takes a really deep breath. He takes a sigh of relief as he looks at his watch under his suit. It's about that time of the day that he almost forgot about. Debbie's invitation for dinner tonight. He flies back as fast as he can with a loud boom as the sun begins to set over the horizon. We cut to a TV news report on the events that transpired today. The Guardians of the Globe and the team successfully fend off a kaiju attack with minimal damage and no casualties. We pan out to see the Burger Mart playing the broadcast as Mark Grayson takes out the trash out back. Struggling to heave both at the same time, he tries his best to drag them over to the dumpster out back. But we all know how this goes. Mark comes home from his shift ecstatic at what he has to tell the family. Entering the home, he's greeted by two younger cousins and Grunkle Connor throwing his arm around Mark's shoulder, asking him how his day was and how much he's grown since they've last seen each other. Mark chuckles as he jokingly boxes with his Grunkle and tells him it's only been a week, Grunkle Carl, and he's just about the same size as when he last saw them. Grunkle Carl and Mark both have fun as the young ones play around the house. Debbie and Gertrude talk about their super-powered husbands and how they think their kids are going to grow up to be just like their dads. But then Debbie remembers these are Gertrude's grandchildren. Carl only met Gertrude just a few years before Mark was born. After waiting a few more minutes, Nolan finally comes home with some pizza fresh from Giorno's. With that, everyone sits down and says grace, with Grunkle Carl leading the prayer. As they finish saying grace, they all dig in, with conversations going around during dinner time, and Mark finally finding the perfect time to tell everyone. Guess who's finally getting their powers? His cousins are overjoyed by this, saying how Mark can take them flying now like Grandpa Carl. Debbie and Gertrude congratulate Mark as he can finally be a hero like his Grunkle and father. But Carl and Nolan, they look at each other, more worried than the rest of the people at the table. Because to them, they know exactly what this means.
Are you sure?
Both of them would exclaim as Mark replies with, "Yeah, he's pretty sure." Debbie and Gertrude elbow their husbands as they both congratulate Mark, agreeing that training will start bright and early tomorrow, so he should get some good night's rest. Super excited for tomorrow. The night continues as Carl and his family say goodnight to the Graysons. Carl gets a hold of his family as they fly home. On the way back to the farm, the grandkids sleep in Carl's arms as Gertrude strikes up a conversation with her husband. Now that Mark has his powers, he's going to need a big, strong man to teach him how to fight. Both of them know how soft Nolan can be when it comes to teaching his kids. God knows how he'd teach that boy how to throw a proper punch. They both laugh as Carl tells Gertrude that Nolan can be tough when he wants to. It's just... He pauses mid-sentence. Gertrude asks what's wrong as Carl says Nolan had it really tough growing up. His parents weren't exactly the best. His mother was really hard on him and his father was the only one who really cared for him. So he doubts that he wants Mark to be treated like how his parents treated him. There was a tradition back on Viltrum. Preparing their kids for adulthood was far more different there than here on Earth. And quite frankly, he doesn't think it's best for Mark to learn how Viltrumites do things. We get a flashback of Nolan, Grunkle Carl, and young Mark on the roof of their home. They reveal to the young Mark that they're actually from a planet called Viltrum. And there live the Viltrumites, a race of aliens that go from planet to planet, helping those in need. Nolan and Grunkle Carl volunteered to be Earth's protectors. And one day, Mark will grow up to find out that there is a higher purpose to their existence. Grunkle Carl tells Mark that the people on this planet are fragile. There are some really bad people out there. but it's their job to protect the good ones. This is their home, and it's up to them to save it. We jump back to the present day, with Mark thinking about his dad and his Grunkle. How is he going to live up to them? How is he going to live up to, well, Omni-Man and Liberator? He keeps thinking to himself until an idea pops into his head. He gets up and looks out the window. Getting out onto the roof, he looks down. A little nervous because this is his first time flying, and it's not exactly easy. So he hesitates just a little bit. But then he remembers something his Grunkle Carl told him. Grunkle Carl, how do I know when I'm ready to be a superhero when I get my powers?
You see, that's the neat part about it, kid. You don't. It's a leap of faith.
So, he runs off the roof and he dives head first over it. Closing his eyes, hoping for the best, he stops mid-air as he opens them. To see that he's levitating straight off the ground. He cheers in excitement as he zooms off up into the sky. He flies past the clouds and almost into a plane, but as he passes it, he starts to lose control. He loses his grip on his flight and he floats up into the upper atmosphere. Panic starts to sink in as his vision goes blurry. As Mark begins to pass out, before he does, Mark wakes up to the sound of his alarm. 5 a.m. sharp. He rubs his eyes, waking up fully as Nolan waits for him by the doorway. Obviously not getting any sleep from last night, he thinks, how the hell did he get home? Outside the house, Grunkle Carl is already waiting for both of them in his supersuit. Cutting to all three of them in the sky, Nolan teaches Mark how to control his flight. Teaching him the basics, he tells Mark to land right there on that open field. And again, we all know how this goes. Getting up from the rubble, his Uncle Carl offers his hand. Mark takes it as he is then pulled up by his uncle. Then, Carl tells Mark that he's going to punch him now. Before Mark could react, he gets hit hard, sending him several feet back. Mark is left gasping for air as he tries to recover from that massive punch that almost knocked the wind out of him. Uncle Carl floats near him as he says that was lesson 1. Not everyone is going to hold back. And most of the time, it's going to be life or death out there. They aren't going to always be there for Mark, and he needs to learn how to take punches. Wheezing a great deal, he asks if he really had to hit him that hard. Carl says he'll be fine, as Nolan states that there's this thing about their biology. The more damage they take and the more hits that they survive, the stronger they'll get as soon as they recover. Meaning, if he can survive a fight with his dad, then he'll most likely be just as strong as him when he wakes up from getting knocked out. Speaking of, Nolan tells Mark to hit him, Still recovering from the punch from his uncle, he gets on his feet and he plants them. Thus, the sparring commences. Mark getting some good hits on his dad and Nolan returning with the same energy. Days of training turn into weeks. And before Nolan goes out doing his thing as Omni-Man, he always takes the time to train his son. Carl makes sure nothing goes too far. If he sees either Mark or Nolan start to get too invested into this fight and more blood is being shed than usual, he steps in to stop it. Debbie doesn't like this, of course. She thinks Nolan is being a little too hard on Mark, as she also scolds Carl for letting it go on for so long. They try and explain why they do it, but all they get is an earful from the world's grumpiest Asian mom. Mark butts in and says that he wants to do this. And if this is how they do it on Viltrum to get stronger, then he'll endure every single minute of it. Nolan and Carl look at each other in both a mixture of being proud and concerned for Mark. Maybe, just maybe, the Viltrumite genes in him are strong after all. We focus on Carl now. He thinks Mark could be a true Viltrumite despite his origin. His face goes from proud to concerned. He looks over to Nolan as his expression hasn't changed. Gleaming with pride, he can't help but think what this could mean for them. What it could mean for Mark. Later, as the sun goes down, we join Carl and his family eating dinner together. His face not changing from the look of concern he has held since today's training. His grandkids are the first to notice as they ask what's wrong. They haven't seen Grandpa Carl this down in a long time. He says it's nothing to worry about as Gertrude asks,
Is this about the training you boys had today? How'd that go? You never told us how Mark's been doing.
Well, Gertrude, as the grandkids converse about what Mark's hero name would be, Carl begins to feel something he hasn't felt in a very long time. He feels worried. So worried to the point where while he's cutting his steak, he cuts right through the plate. The room goes silent, and the light flickers just a little bit. Gertrude breaks the silence with her soothing voice.
Carl? Is everything all right, sugar?
Carl excuses himself from the table, bringing the broken plate and the food with him. Throwing them in the garbage, he starts to hear whispers. Flashbacks of his own life. His life before Earth. He doesn't like them. He doesn't like who he sees as it starts to get to him. He almost gives in to the voices and go off the deep end until he feels a soft hand touch his shoulder. Gertrude brings him back down to earth, embracing her husband from behind. She turns her husband around as she rests her hand on her husband's face. Her touch calms him down as the whispers start to dissipate.
I know how hard you've been working, sugar. I know being a hero ain't all that easy, especially with all of this power you hold. I'm not quite sure what you saw during your time on Viltrum or whatever. but I know post-traumatic stress when I see it.
She guides his hand onto her scar on her lips and her scar on her right eye, revealing it's been a fake for so long.
Trust me, sugar. I might just know how it feels.
A tear runs down Carl's cheek as he lets out a light chuckle. No, what would I do without you, Gertrude? As they meet each other's lips and they kiss. Suddenly, just as the night begins to dim down and mellow out, the Guardian's emergency meeting beacon goes off and is sent out to everyone. And Carl gets the exact same notice. Carl is confused. Why would the Guardian send out an emergency meeting notice after a quiet night? The only reason he could think of is... Oh no. Before Gertrude could ask what it could be about at this hour, Carl zooms so fast the G-force of his speed almost leaves the house in a wreck. As Omni-Man hovers over the city, planning what to do next, Carl finally arrives, stopping directly behind him. Believing Carl knows exactly what they have to do now, he pats Carl on the shoulder as he gets ready to fly off with him. But Nolan wasn't ready for what was about to happen next. Carl stops him, telling Nolan that he can't let him do what he's about to do. What? Confused more than anything, Nolan asks Carl what the hell he just said. Carl says he can't allow Nolan to slaughter their friends like some animals they have to put down. Friends? They aren't their friends. They're a threat to their plans for this planet. They need to be dealt with as swiftly as possible. That's exactly why he called him here. This planet hasn't made him soft, has it? He's Conquest, Viltrumite's greatest weapon, defending these insects? For what? Because he has a wife and grandkids now? He is the most ruthless Viltrumite there is. How could he, the conqueror of worlds, allow this backwards planet to change the great conquest? Has he forgotten his purpose? Silence. The night sky freezes as Conquest looks up from his hands and directly at Nolan. He rebuts with how he hasn't forgotten his purpose. He has not forgotten their mission, he has simply found a new one. A purpose worth fighting for. And deep down, Nolan knows he feels the same way.
Don't you see, Nolan? Earth isn't ours to conquer.
Before he could talk Nolan out of it, Omni-Man balls up his fist as he swings hard at Carl. This catches him off guard as he spits out a drop of blood.
So, it's treason then, Carl? Please, don't make me do this, Nolan. And who's going to stop me?
Carl and Nolan engage in a massive battle in the air, flying over the city as every hit connects, sending shockwaves through the air. Each punch harder than the last one as both men are trading blow after blow. Conquest tries to talk Nolan down and how these humans have changed them. Their culture may be alien to them, but he cannot deny what he feels for this planet, and he cannot deny the feelings that he has for his family. Carl tries to get through to Nolan, but every time he says something that hits hard to home, Nolan only hits harder and tries to take the fight into the city. Right behind Conquest, they engage in another fight, but this time, Carl grips on tight to Nolan. He tries to break free from this gorilla hug, but it's no use. So, Nolan resorts to headbutting Carl as hard as he can to try and loosen the grip. But it's no use. Realizing Conquest was not fighting the way he used to on Viltrum, he notices that he's been planning his flight patterns, and he recognizes a snowy mountain peak way too late as they both crash into the Guardians' headquarters. Getting up, the Guardians ask Carl what the hell is going on. He gets up with a bloodied nose and mouth, telling the Guardians to ask questions later, just help him restrain Omni-Man. Frustrated with Conquest bringing them to the Guardians' HQ, he zips past the Guardians and tries to punch a hole through Carl's chest. But he gets cut open instead as Red Rush pulls Carl away from Nolan. But the cut is deep enough where Carl is bleeding. He's bleeding a lot. Omni-Man stops hesitating and begins to go after the Guardians, but Red Rush is there to move everyone out of harm's way. In between Nolan's punches, Carl has enough strength in him to get some good hits on Omni-Man and gets rocked by him. He gets tag-teamed by Carl, War Woman, and the Immortal. Omni-Man gets some really good hits off on all three of them, but Martian Man gets a hold of him. But that does not last long. As he rips him in half, breaking free, he goes after Carl once more, but is caught in the face with a smoke bomb by Darkwing. Temporarily blinded, he is hit with a massive water cannon by Aquarius. Being pushed back by the sheer force of it, Nolan gets a good foothold of himself as he zooms through it and tries to go after the Fishman. But they predicted this, and Aquarius dodges out of the way with the help of Red Rush as Green Ghost phases through Omni-Man, disorienting him, making him throw up his lunch. Screaming at the heavy hitters to finish the job, the Immortal and War Woman give it their all, making impact with Omni-Man's chin, knocking him out. As the dust settles, Omni-Man is defeated, and the Guardians are all accounted for. They all turn around as Carl collapses to the ground on his knees. He's lost a lot of blood. They all rush to him as Red Rush runs to the medical bay to try and get supplies to stitch Carl up. Immortal catches him before he loses consciousness as he tells Carl to hang on, old friend. Carl lets out a slight chuckle as he looks over to a downed Omni-Man and looks back to the rest of the Guardians. He gives a very weak thumbs up to everyone as he whispers,
I've